Hi guys, this week we're doing lesson 33, which is all about shapes. So on page 769, the first page, it wants you to sort the shapes. So if you can find different things in your house that are different shapes, like if you have Legos or puzzle pieces or anything like that, put them in the middle. If you can't find anything, you can draw shapes. You can draw like a triangle and a circle, and then they want to know how you can sort them. So you could just talk about this. Like these have 3 sides, these ones are pink, these ones don't have any sides, these ones are closed shapes. So try to think about what qualities the shapes have that would make them in a group together. So if you can't find any, you can just draw some. Then on this page it says, draw 3 shapes that have straight sides and 4 corners. So corners are, they're not the edges right here, the sides are the tips of them where they come together. So you just need to draw 3 shapes that have straight sides and 4 corners. So you'll draw that here. And then over here, you just want to talk about what corners are, what they look like, what are some examples, what are non-examples. And then down below, they want you to circle the corners of the shapes. And I always have kids do this because it's a really good way to count how many corners and how many sides they have. So they're just going to circle all the corners. And then I have them circle it while they count. So they would say 1, 2, 3, 4. And then once we get to sides, we're going to draw little lines on them for the sides. So if you want to practice that now, you can. You can see that. Okay. This one doesn't have any. So you would circle 1, 2, 3. And then this one doesn't have any corners. So start thinking about these would be good non-examples of shapes that don't have corners. They don't have any flat sides that come together. Okay, and then on the back, they're going to do this on their own. It says draw 3 shapes that are closed and have straight sides. So a lot of people might not have heard there's closed and open shapes. So if I drew that, that would be an open shape. It's not closed. There's a little spot that's not connected. So that's what they mean by closed, is it would just have all the sides would connect together like that. So it says draw 3 shapes that are closed and have straight sides. So see how all of these sides are straight? That's what they're going to do. So they're going to pick 3 different shapes that have straight sides and that are closed. So that's what you're going to do on Monday. On Tuesday, you are going to be doing naming and describing 2-dimensional shapes. So 2D shapes are flat shapes. They're ones that you would draw on a piece of paper, like a rectangle, square, hexagon. 3D shapes have multiple sides and vertices, and they would and faces, and they would be like cubes and rectangular prisms and cones. So we're just doing 2D shapes today. So this one says, Sophie says the shapes in each group are the same in some way. How are they the same? So I would just have them tell you, or you could even have them write it out. Either one is good. Try to get a different color that you can see. So they can write it out or they can just talk about it. So like I can see, like in all of these shapes, every single group, there's corners. Like all the shapes have corners. In all of the groups, they have at least 3 sides. So things like that. You're going to look at the sides, the shapes, maybe how big they are, colors. Those are the kinds of things. So they can write it or they can just tell you. And then on the next page, you're going to have another one similar to that. Sophie says the shapes in each group are the same in each way. How are they the same? So this is the same as the first problem. They're just going to show you how they did it. The number of the sides and corners tells the shape's name. So this one says 3 sides and 3 corners is a triangle. 4 sides and 4 square corners, because they're like a square shape, is a rectangle. 6 sides, 6 corners is a hexagon. And then down here, you're just going to fill in the blank using these right here. So rectangles have, or blank has 3 sides and 3 corners. So which one of these has 3 sides and 3 corners? And they can look up here and figure that out. Then on the other side, how is your way, the first page, like model it? How is it different? What can shapes that have the same name, why can shapes that have the same name look different? So like I can say this is a triangle and this is a triangle. So how is that possible? Those are both triangles, but they look completely different. And then this one says, Allie says these shapes are the same in some way. How are they the same? So they want to look down here, and they kind of gave you a sentence frame to fill in. They have blank sides and blank square corners. The shapes are blank. So what are these shapes called? And I always tell them they should go back in the book and try to find out the spelling to help them spell it. And then on the back, you're just doing more 2D shapes. June says these shapes are the same in some ways. How are they the same? So again, they gave you a sentence frame kind of helping you out. Same down here with the square and the rhombus. And then down here it says describe the circle. So how many sides and how many corners. And then for the practice, it's very similar to what they did. So here are the shapes that we know, and there's some examples. And then down here it says count the sides and corners and name the shape. So this is where I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 sides. I'm sorry, 4 square corners, and then 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4. Have them kind of do it like that, because once we get into shapes that have more, it's going to be good for them to make sure they cross out each one so they don't forget one. And then they would write the name of the shape down here. Same for this one. Now this one, it's getting a little harder. They didn't tell you how many sides, so they're going to have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And most of the time for the 2D shapes, the corners and sides are the same. It's kind of interesting. And then they would write the name of the shape down here. And the names can be found right up at the top. They can look. And then on the back, they'll do this on their own. It says color the triangle green, color the rectangle red, color the hexagon yellow. So this is kind of nice following directions. Down here it says color the shapes with square corners blue. Square corners are just corners that go almost like half of a square, like that. And then this one says circle the shapes that have 6 sides and 6 corners. So they'll need to count each one and just circle the ones. I even have them sometimes, I'll have them go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, that's not 6. So I'll have them just cross it out so they know they've already tried it, because I always want them to try all of them. And then down here it says, what is the same about these two shapes? Circle. So do they both have square corners, or do they both have the same number of corners? And then on the next day, you are naming and describing 3D shapes. So now we're not doing 2D anymore. We're moving on to the 3D shapes. So they're all up here. These are the ones we're going to work on so they can refer back to this page. And then it just says, how are they the same? So what about all of these shapes? Are they the same? How are they different? So you can have them just tell you, or they can write it. Then on the back, they wrote it here, and then down here they're kind of breaking down each shape, how they would solve that problem to figure out their similarities and differences. And then on this page, they want to know, how was your way that you did it, like this way, like model it. And then Boom says he can make a cube with 6 faces. Buzz says he can make a sphere with 2 faces. Who is right? So in circumstances like this, I would probably have them get something that were these shapes. So I would have them get something that was a cube, like a box, and I would have them count all of the faces. The faces are the flat part on the shape. And then I would have them get a sphere or a cone, or you could even make one with a piece of paper. Like that. And then the flat part, the face would be the bottom. It's the flat part of the shape. So I think it's always good for them to see it. It's hard sometimes to draw it because you can't count all of the sides on here. So sometimes it's good to have the object so they can go around and count each side. And then this says make a check mark if true, make an X if it's not true. So they'll go down each one and put a check mark if it's true and an X if it's not. So they'll do the rectangular prism and the cone. And they're going to do the same thing for all the 3D shapes. This is really going to help them get to know each shape and how many faces and corners and how many straight edges. Another thing is it says, can it roll? So does it have any curved sides? So that'll help them get to know the shapes. And then for practice, they'll be doing the same thing on all of those. And then this one says, look at these shapes, circle all the ways they are alike. So how are both of these shapes the same? And they can circle as many as they want or color in A, B, C, however many are right. On Thursday, they're going to be doing naming and describing shapes. Put this down a little bit. So they want them to draw the shapes named in each box, so it's good for them to practice. And then this one's empty, so they'll have to do that one on their own. And then it wants you to color the shapes with these colors. If you don't have one of them, just find something that's similar to that. And then down here we have a boom problem. Boom says this shape is a rectangle. Do you agree? Why or why not? So we have to think about what a rectangle is from the previous pages. What would make this a rectangle? What would make it not a rectangle? And they can just tell you or write it. It's up to you. And then on the back page, they want you to draw each shape. So just have them draw as best as they can. They should have the right number of sides and corners. And then this one says color the shape. So rectangular prisms are going to be red, cubes blue, cylinders green. And then down here it says circle the squares. And this one's kind of tricky. This one right here. Because really, it's a square. It's just turned. So it's kind of teaching them just because it's not perfectly straight like that, it still meets all the requirements. Still has 4 sides, 4 corners. All the sides are equal length. So it's good. This is a good trick question to see kind of how well they know what a square is. Then for practice, they'll do the same thing. They're going to be drawing the shapes. They want to make sure they have the same number of sides. If they can't remember, they can flip back to some pages to find out how many sides and faces they have. And then down here, they're going to color the shapes with the colors just like they did on the previous page. On the back, they're going to draw a couple more 2D shapes. And then this one says circle the hexagons. And then down here, they're going to be coloring 3D shapes with these colors. And then for day 5, remember this is something they can do on their own, kind of like a quiz. And this says make the same shapes in different ways. Draw your shape 3 different ways. So they're just going to pick one of these and then draw it 3 different ways. So they should look different. Hexagon, rhombus, square, triangle, or rectangle. They can pick whichever one they want. And then it says, how are your shapes different? How are they alike? So this is a good compare contrast with the ones they drew. They can color them too. And then on the back, they're going to be doing circle all the reasons the shape is a rectangle. So, they're going to be doing a 2D shape and then a 3D shape. And then down here, they're going to have to draw a couple different shapes. And they're all 2D shapes. So this is kind of like a good way to gauge how much they learn during the week. All right. I hope this helped. I think shapes are so much fun. Just having them go around and do like a shape hunt in the house. Like if you're doing this page and you're talking about rectangles, go find all the rectangles you can or point out how many rectangles. I know the kids like doing that in the classroom, so that might be a fun little activity you could do. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.